Aparna Thadani. I am a chartered accountant and a certified public accountant. I qualified as a CA in 2001 and I qualified as a CPA in the year 2006. All of us know that studies for these professional qualifications can be really tedious and only the best of the best are able to clear these exams. Every student has his or her own techniques on how to go about studying. I am here to share a few study techniques which I used during my preparation for CA. The very first step in my preparation is to be making a timetable. I used to prepare a very detailed timetable, counting the number of days to the exam, multiplying it by the number of hours of studies that I'm able to give every day, and dividing it by the number of subjects that I have to study. This way, I used to have a very clear picture of how many days I have available for which subject. I used to, of course, tweak the timetable a little bit to give more weightage or more days to the subjects which were trickier and cut down on the days for the subjects which were easier. Making a timetable used to give me a complete control over my study schedule, and I had a clear picture of how much time is left for revision, taking exam papers, and so on and so forth. Second thing I did was chalked out a dedicated time to study during the day. I think you need to observe yourself and figure out which time of the day are your concentration levels at the peak. For example, for me, the highest concentration peaks were late at night or early in the morning. So I have done all my studies during those period of times. The third technique that I have used is making my own notes. And believe me, my notes were my lifeline. Right? I used to write down all the difficult concepts in my own words, and when I used to write down the concepts, it gave me tremendous clarity on the concept. Using mind maps, flow charts, charts, tables, etc. All these made it very easy for me to retain a lot of concepts that I was studying. Third thing that I did was, for theory subjects, I used to resort to group studies. So we had, of course, a very intense study group where we divided all the chapters between ourselves, and each person used to read out the chapter aloud. So listening the chapter being read to you, I think that helped a lot to me in terms of retaining what was being read out. And of course, during that reading out, if there were any difficulties or discussions, we as a group used to discuss out in a lot of details. The next technique that I used was using a lot of colorful markers and a lot of colorful inked pens. So I used to highlight different parts of the chapter with different colors of highlights, or I used to write notes in different colors. I think that photogenic memory, what you call, that helped me to retain a lot of the theory that I was reading. In fact, there have been times in the exam where I could recall a concept only because I had highlighted it in a very bright color or I had written it in a different colored ink. Coming to more practical subjects, everybody knows that to crack the practical subjects or to master them, the number one thing to do is to practice out a lot. But before you sit down to practice out, you should be clear about the exam pattern. You should be aware of how much time are you going to get in the exam for solving a particular question. And then doing question practice under time constraints prepares you thoroughly for the final exam, because you know that you are going to be able to finish a particular question in the allocated time. Yeah, and last but not the least, cycling was my to-go activity. So whenever I felt that I'm too bogged down with studies, I'm no longer able to concentrate on what I'm trying to read, I used to quickly go for a 15-20 minutes of a round on cycling, and believe me, it used to re-energize me again to start studying for my other papers or the topic that I was going into the details of. So I hope these study techniques help you in preparing for your exams as well. Thank you.